Alright everyone, and welcome back to the third and last part of my E3 2011 wrap-up. In this part we're going to be discussing Nintendo's press conference, which was extremely highly anticipated because of the suspected unveiling of their brand new console, and they also had some other announcements as well. So Nintendo started their press conference with a huge montage of The Legend of Zelda. They had all of the games basically were montaged in a video. They had a symphony playing along with it, and it was a pretty lengthy intro. It was pretty cool. I think a lot of people really liked the way Nintendo started their press conference, with one of the most popular, IPs of all time in gaming, The Legend of Zelda, and people really liked it. And they came out, and the first thing they talked about was Zelda, of course, and it was the 25th anniversary of Zelda, and they talked about a few things. They confirmed the release of Skyward Sword, or at least they confirmed that it was on the way. It said, this holiday season they'll get it, and so people were happy with that. We knew Skyward Sword was on the way, but they confirmed it. And then they started talking about a lot of stuff with the Legend of Zelda 25th anniversary. They included a bunch of releases of past Zelda games for different platforms and such. They announced that Link's Awakening would come to the 3DS Virtual Console, which they also announced that the 3DS now was going to have a Virtual Console to get, previous games from other platforms. And Link's Awakening is already on the 3DS Virtual Console. Four Swords is going to be free. I don't remember what system that's going to be on. It doesn't say on here. I believe it was for DS or 3DS. I don't remember. And they talked about some other things. And they also talked about the symphony that was playing is apparently going to be touring, doing some shows of Legend of Zelda music, which was pretty neat. I thought it was kind of cool. If you're somebody who really likes symphonies and Legend of Zelda, then that's something you'd be interested in. They did say that they were releasing 2 music CDs, which was pretty weird. I don't know what that has to do with gaming, but one of them was going to be basically the symphony concert. It was being based off that, and the other one was a soundtrack. I forgot what it was for. Maybe Skyward Sword or something like that. I don't remember. But yeah, they started off big time with a lot of Legend of Zelda stuff, which was pretty good for Nintendo. And then they came out and did a lot of things with the 3DS. And here's the bottom line, alright? I've never been one for portable gaming. The last portable game I had was a Game Boy Color years ago, like when I was small, and used to play Pokemon on it. Ever since then, I haven't had a portable console. Or a portable, whatever you want to call it. It just was never my thing. But after seeing Nintendo's press conference, seeing all the games that's coming out for the 3DS, I'm highly considering this Christmas getting a Nintendo 3DS for a few reasons. A, I would at this time like a new portable game console, okay? Because there's a lot of times that I'm in long car rides or waiting around and just would love to have a, portable console to pass the time. 2, I like the 3D thing. I know it's kind of a gimmick, but I just like the idea of it. So, sorry, I'm being buzzed here. But, and also with the slate of games that are now coming out for the 3DS, I am highly considering getting one because I hope by then the price will have dropped. And if it does, that's good, and all of these good games will be coming out. So let me talk about what they announced, okay? They announced Mario Kart 3DS, which is sweet. I love Mario Kart. That's a good one. They announced a new Super Mario 3DS, which looked really good, okay? Star Fox 64, which is the exact same game, but it's in 3D. That's pretty cool, considering Star Fox 64 was very popular on 64. And so now it's coming to the 3DS, alright? They showed the new Kid Icarus Uprising, which they unveiled at last year's E3. They showed it now on the 3DS and talked about the multiplayer. And finally, to my surprise, they announced a Luigi's Mansion 2. Now, Luigi's Mansion was my favorite game on GameCube. I love that game. I've beaten it like 5 times all the way through. I really enjoy Luigi's Mansion. And now they're coming out with a Luigi's Mansion 2 for 3DS. So they said a lot of good things, a lot of good titles and all coming out for the 3DS. They also, you know, showed that, you know, they're actually making good first-party titles for the 3DS. Because there's not a whole lot out right now for 3DS, but there will be more coming. So that was pretty good. Alright? And then the last thing, of course, was the unveiling of their new console, which they did. But there's a lot to talk about here, okay? It's called, first of all, it's called the Wii U. Now, that is the worst name for anything I've ever heard in my entire life. The Wii U. It's the most unnatural thing to say ever. Why you put 2 vowel sounds next to one another, I have no idea. I mean, it was bad enough when they named it the Wii instead of the Revolution, but now it's the Wii U. And how do you say that? Is it quickly like Wii U? Or do you have to take an unnatural pause, Wii U, to make sure you separate so it doesn't sound like Wii U, like an aggravating alarm? I don't know. It's a horrible name. But it was the most confusing demonstration I've ever seen in my entire life, because all they showed the whole time was the controller. Now this thing is like a tablet, okay? It's like the size of an iPad, alright? It's insane. It's got this huge screen in the middle of it, which is touch. Then on the sides it's got your buttons, your D-pad, some analog sticks, and it's this giant thing, and that's all they showed. And people were like, what the hell is the new console? People didn't understand. I didn't understand. I was watching it on the stream, and people were commenting, what's the new console? Because all they kept showing was the controller. And people were like, I don't understand. Is there a new console coming? Is the controller the console? Does this thing, is it work with the Wii that we have now? What they never explained, that it's the controller and they have a new actual console coming. They never made that clear until like the day after, when we started seeing what the Wii U was. But for the press conference, it was terrible. It was the most confusing thing I'd ever seen in my life, and people hated it, okay? Because basically what this thing is it's like a second screen within the screen of the game. So for instance, they showed games where, you know, you'd be walking along and you could hold the thing up and it'll show you, like, you know, things underground, or you can use it to zoom in on certain areas of the TV. I don't know how it works, but, you know, it's basically a screen like within a screen. One of the big things of it was you could be playing the game on the TV, and somebody comes in and wants to, you know, watch the TV and make you stop playing your game. You say that's okay, and you hit a button, and the game goes from the TV onto your screen, and you can continue to play it, which is cool. But my thing is, nowadays, and this was brought up by John Rambo, DSP's friend, on their recap, there's so many TVs in your household that you can just move TVs. I mean, that's what I would do. You just unplug the game and freaking move it to another TV, instead of playing it on this screen on your lap. But basically, all the thing is another giant gimmick. And this is not what people wanted from this console. Everyone thought that this console was going to go back to what Nintendo does best, and that's making software. That's always what Nintendo has done best, okay? They've always done weird stuff with the hardware, like the GameCube. That controller was the weirdest looking thing. The N64, that controller was like the most awkward thing to hold in your entire life. No one knew how to hold a controller. But, you know, and so it's always been for Nintendo, the software. That's what Nintendo has always done well. And people thought, listen, this year, the Wii was fun. It was gimmick. It was revolutionary at the time. It was the first one to do the motion controls. But bottom line is, it was a gimmick. People bought it like crazy for a few years, but now no one buys it anymore. It's like everyone in the world has a Wii in their house, but no one plays it. I have one in my house. My grandparents have one in their house. All of my friends have Wiis. None of us play the thing because there's no good software for the thing. And so people thought, listen, this year, the Wii was fun, but it's Nintendo. They understand. And they even said in the press conference, they said, listen, we understand that the Wii was more of a family casual gamers thing. We want to go back and reclaim the hardcore gamers, which was cool. But this console's not the way to do it. It's another gimmick. It's not just a console that they're gonna put out to focus on the games. It's another freaking gimmick with this giant freaking controller, and it's just not what people wanted or were expecting. And you know, it's a shame because Nintendo had a golden opportunity, I feel, at this stage to really come back and hit the market hard and bring back all those people from like the NES, SNES, N64 days when it was about the games. And, you know, I think a lot of hardcore Nintendo fans felt really ripped off with the Wii, that they were forgetting about them, they were focusing more on the family gaming, and they wanted to go back to a hardcore game system that was going to have great games. And that's not what anyone got. We got another gimmick, and I'm so confused, okay, about what they're trying to do with this console. Who are they targeting? Are they targeting the casual gamers again? Well, let's see. When you talk about the Wii and family game, you talk about moms, dads, grandmas, grandpas playing this game. Those people are going to take one look at this controller and go, that's the most complicated thing I've ever seen in my life. I'm not touching it. I mean, with the Wii, you had a freaking baton and you waved it at the screen like an asshole. With this thing, it's like, you know, you got to hold it up and do all this stuff. There's touch, there's button. No one's parents or grandparents are going to play with that thing. Then what I found out was, apparently, from what I read, right now, this new console is only designed to work with one controller. So you can't play local multiplayer on a game. You can't do it. At least from what I understand. And what they reported was that they're working or looking into having it support multiple controllers, but right now it only supports one. So it's clearly not going after the family gaming anymore. They've pretty much just left that in the complete dirt with a console that right now only supports a controller, and it's like the most complicated controller ever released for a console, okay? So, okay, it's not family. What about hardcore gamers? Is that who they're going after? No, because the controller is another gimmick. It's not focused on the games. It's focused on, look, I've got another screen that I can use to do this. And, you know, they showed, like, there was stuff on the screen. This guy held the controller flat like that, and he had ninja stars on it, and he would do like that on the pad, and it would fling ninja stars on the screen. And that's all fine and good. They had one which was the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. It was like Wii Golf, basically, but the controller was on the ground, okay, and the person was standing over it like they were gonna, you know, hit, and on the ground, it just showed the golf ball in the sand. That's what was on the ground. It's like, who needs that? Who needs to see a virtual golf ball sitting on the ground? Like, no one. I mean, what is that going to change? How is that going to do anything? And so, it's really not hardcore gamers either, because it's another gimmick control that, first of all, looks like the most awkward thing in the world to hold. Who is going to be able to sit there and hold like an iPad and use the buttons that far away? And it's like a square. It's not ergonomic at all, and it looks horribly awkward to hold. If you're trying to use it like a gamepad, and you're not just holding it on your lap using the touch. If you're not using the screen, you want to use it like a controller, it looks like the worst thing ever. So it's not really hardcore gamers either. So who are they targeting with this console? I have no idea. And another thing, the controller is freaking like a mini computer. You know how expensive that thing is going to be? And how much money that it's going to cost to replace one of those things? Or buy a new one? It's going to be like $100 or more for each additional controller. And if you break one, which doesn't seem that hard to do, it's got a giant screen on it. If you drop it on the ground, or, you know, somebody gets mad and, you know, a little kid and throws it on the ground or whatever, it doesn't look that hard to break, and it's going to cost you a fortune to replace. So, you know, I have no idea where they're going with this console. It's not at all what anyone expected from this new console, and everyone's just universally disappointed with Nintendo. And, you know, they did show that they've got some third-party publishers on board with it. They showed, now this was hilarious, they showed gameplay of Darksiders 2, Batman Arkham Asylum, Metro Last Light, and there were some other games on there. I think they may have had like Resident Evil and stuff on there. And what was funny was that it was found out that all of the footage that they used was PS3 and Xbox 360 footage. Well, I have a few questions. A, what in the world did people expect that footage to come from? Because the console's not invented yet, and they don't have any of the games invented yet for the new console. So what footage did you think that was of? It certainly wasn't of the new console, because it's not even invented, let alone the software. So people are really stupid that they were surprised. People, like, I read that and they were like, oh, you know, did you know that, well, I'm like, yeah, I knew it was Xbox and PS3 footage. What else would it be? It's, you know, but it, you know, it's just pretty funny that they even showed gameplay because it wasn't on their console. My question is, why couldn't they just show the titles in the slideshow instead of showing us gameplay from other people's consoles? I mean, obviously it wasn't Nintendo footage because those games don't exist. So, you know, I knew it was PS3 and Xbox footage. My question is, why show it when it's not your console? So, you know, overall, you know, oh, and no one cares about this really, probably, but pt3 Games, whoever the hell that is making an open world Lego game exclusive for Nintendo for the Wii U and the 3DS. Whoop-de-frickin' do. But yeah, so that was Nintendo's main thing, obviously, was the Wii U. Overall, it's horrible. It's not at all what people wanted. In my opinion, I don't think this console is going to sell well at all. I think people are going to be really pissed off. If you look at the stock numbers, people are flipping out. The stock for Nintendo is like jumping off a cliff right now. Everyone is bailing because the Wii U is stupid and it's not going to sell well, because people bought the Wii because it was a cool gimmick with motion controls at the time, but people are done with the gimmicks. They're done. Nintendo fans don't want any more gimmicks. That's why the Wii stopped selling. What Nintendo fans wanted was a console to go back to the old days of Nintendo just putting out solid software. Again, we didn't see any new IPs announced for Nintendo. It's all of the same IPs. because Nintendo apparently, what their focus is all those years ago, 20 some odd years ago, we made all these great IPs, people love them, and we're done. We don't need to make any more new IPs, we don't need to introduce anything new. We'll just keep making Mario games, keep making Zelda games until, you know, the day we die. And the way we'll sell it is we'll just keep selling it in new ways that are gimmicks. And people are tired of it now. People are over it. People have exhausted playing Zelda games and even, yes, playing Mario games. Because there's been, I don't know, 300 million of them. People want something new from Nintendo, but they want it in the software area. And what they're giving us is more of the same IPs and more gimmicks. And it's not what people want. Nintendo obviously didn't get the message. Everyone thought that, you know, they got the message. That's why they were making this new console. That's why it was going to go back to hardcore software. That's why they came out in the press conference and said, we know that the Wii was casual gaming, now we want to go back to what we're known for. But then they unveiled this thing. And people, including myself, are still scratching our heads like, you know, what is this? What possibly were they thinking when they developed this thing? In my opinion, it's going to fail miserably. Nintendo fans aren't gonna buy the thing. And everybody's just going to go back and start playing their NES because that was when Nintendo was big time, making great games. That's what people wanted it to be again. But Nintendo, you know, it's pretty funny because for all the brilliant minds at Nintendo, none of them got the message that was right in front of their face that we don't want more gimmicks, we want games. And it's just pretty funny when you look around at how, you know, all the geniuses at Nintendo, and I'm not being sarcastic, those people are geniuses who create these games and created these great IPs and things, you know, and you know, some pretty neat technology with the motion controls with the 3DS. All these great minds, but none of them can understand what's right in front of their face, which is just stop with the gimmicks. We don't care what the console looks like. Yes, we want it in HD, but that's as far as you really need to go. Other than that, we just want great Nintendo games. And Nintendo just, for whatever reason, doesn't understand that and releases the Wii U, which, in my opinion, is going to do horribly. But, you know, that's the direction they want to go. I don't exactly know, like I said, what direction that is, because I'm still just wondering what direction they're trying to go, who they're trying to appeal to with this. But I don't know. You know, their stocks are already falling through the floor, and in my opinion, no one's going to buy this console. So maybe if they just have a really awful experience with the Wii U, then maybe they'll get the message, and next time they'll come to the press conference with a real console, without the gimmicks, but with amazing games and maybe some new IPs to get people excited about Nintendo again. Because right now, even though the Wii had PS3 and 360 beat, in my opinion, they are, with this next generation here, they are going to fall to last, in my opinion. With the people are just going to say, screw it, we want hardcore games without the gimmicks. We're going to PS3 or Xbox to get that. And, you know, but it's hard for me to say which one was worse, Microsoft or Nintendo. I originally said I thought Microsoft was the worst, but thinking back to it, I mean, Microsoft, they didn't really hurt themselves. They just didn't better themselves. They just stayed the same. You know what I mean? They were very bland, and we're like, look, we got freaking Cookie Monster with Kinect, which no one cares. They didn't necessarily do a whole lot of damage. Nintendo, in my opinion, hurt themselves big time. They had all of this hype, all of this golden opportunity to steal the spotlight, and they just fell right on their face And so I'm tempted now to say that I think maybe Nintendo had the worst one, simply because what everyone was expecting is not what everybody got, and Nintendo really screwed themselves with the Wii U. So in order, I would have to say that Sony had the best, Microsoft was in second, and Nintendo was probably last. I was very underwhelmed with both Microsoft's and Nintendo's press conference. Some of the 3DS games, like I said, were cool, but the big thing everybody wanted was the new console, and it's a horrible flop. Sony, in my opinion, really bettered themselves. They took their blow, and they came back and said, listen, we're committed to reaffirming your trust in Sony, and here's why. And they displayed great games, a new portable device that is pretty freaking beast, at a very reasonable price, and great titles coming out for the thing, from their biggest people like Uncharted. They've got a BioShock coming out for it, Mod Nation Racers, Little Big Planet, and I'm sure many more to come. And they were just very, very strong with their press conference. They did have a couple of things that no one cared about. Like they also demoed some Move, game where you're shooting arrows and stuff. But, overall, Sony, in my opinion, just had the better conference. Microsoft, like I said, were extremely bland. They really didn't have many new announcements. They didn't focus on their software. They just focused on how Kinect worked with the software. And then, for half the press conference or more, just, did stupid filler content with Sesame Street and Disneyland and all this other garbage because they didn't have anything else to announce. So that was very disappointing. And then Nintendo started strong, and then with the new console fell right on their face and screwed their whole company. So anyway, that is my very long but thorough recap of all three press conferences at E3. I'm excited still for all of the games that are coming out. And we'll see what happens with the remaining games coming out, and hopefully next E3 next year, I don't know, Microsoft will have some new games to announce. Nintendo maybe will get their head out their ass. I don't know, but yeah. So that's it for E3. Again, sort of another disappointment as a whole. But what are you going to do? So that's it for my recap of E3 2011. Hope you found it useful. And if you want to watch any of those press conferences, you can find them through IGN on YouTube. You can also read the recaps like I did on Shack News for all of your E3 news. So I'm Voodoo 51292, and I'll see everybody next time.